All right, it's finally here. One of the biggest weeks of the year for movies. One of the biggest days, I should say, because all these movies that we're going to talk about today open up on Christmas Day.
It's safe to go to the movies on Christmas Day.
Well, is it really safe? Because if the movies bomb, then we're in the same bit of trouble, right?
Well, I mean, I don't think you're looking at a lot of horrible movies. You're just looking at some movies that maybe need a little tinkering, maybe need a little bit of improvement, maybe need a little touch-up.
But at least North Korea isn't going to be attacking us, correct?
That is correct. You know, I mean, unless they all of a sudden develop some sort of anger towards Meryl Streep.
Oh, I love her. And I have to ask, before you get into telling us about Into the Woods, is this a musical?
It is a musical. You know, it's based on a Stephen Sondheim musical that's been playing on Broadway for years and years. And you were talking about a movie that is absolutely 100% amazingly awesome for two-thirds of the movie.
Oh.
And that was the killer part. I'm sitting here, I am having the grandest time ever. Oh, you got James Corden and Emily Blunt playing this baker and his wife, and they live outside of these woods in a fantasy land where they're surrounded with Little Red Riding Hood, Jack from the Beanstalk fame, a nasty witch who lives next door played by Meryl Streep, and all they want to do is have a baby. But a curse that witch placed on their family years ago has forbidden it from happening, but the witch makes a deal with them. If they can collect certain items from the woods, she will be able to get her beauty back, and she will let them have a child.
So is it the last third of the movie that sucks?
It's the last third that absolutely stinks.
How come?
Well, you know, because the first two-thirds are so much fun. They're sassy. They're funny. You've got this great humor. You've got great acting. I love the little kind of takes on all the different characters. Little Red Riding Hood is absolutely hilarious because she's a little brat. And it's fun to watch. And you got you have Cinderella played by Anna Kendrick. You know, Meryl Streep is just doing her Meryl Streepness as the ugly witch with all the evil and sinister feelings that she brings to the movie. And then the last act just falls apart. It's like they don't know how to end the movie. They come up with this plot that makes no sense whatsoever. It's just lifeless. It's unsatisfying. It's pointless. It's almost like it's just seeking some sort of reason to justify its existence for another, 20 or 30 minutes. And I think that's what really hurts. It's almost like someone really awesome wrote the first two acts of the movie, and then someone with absolutely no talent wrote the last act.
So what do you give it?
I'm going to say 2.5 waffles.
So if you take off the last third of the movie, what would you have given it?
I would have gone 4.
Wow.
I would have.
Big
It was
difference.
that good.
All right. The other one, based on a true story, Unbroken.
Yes, and this is the movie that's directed by Angelina Jolie. Stars, if I remember, I think his name's Jerry Connell. I don't know why I'm blanking on that all of a sudden, but he plays the Louis Zamperini, who this is based on a true story. He is an Olympic athlete from 1936. He's a runner. He's overcome so many odds against him to kind of have this great career and have this fame when World War II breaks out, and he like everybody else is in the war, and he's a bombardier in the South Pacific when his plane goes down, and of all the people to rescue them, it turns out to be the Japanese.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, and so we see kind of his life in this horrible prisoner of war camp and the challenges he faces there. And really, it becomes this movie kind of between him and another actor whose name I'm also blanking on. I feel unprepared or something, who is the leader of the Japanese prisoner of war camp, who is absolutely pure evil incarnate. And seeing that battle of wills between the two of them is why this movie is so compelling. And I think the thing with the movie is that, I like the way it started off with kind of these little flashbacks interspersed within the action. We see, the tragedy that has befallen this guy, and we flash back to the life he used to have. And I loved that contrast. And that got dropped very quickly by Jolie, and I thought that was a big mistake because, it then just becomes this kind of old-fashioned, but maybe not old-fashioned in a bad way, but kind of an old-fashioned, let's root for the good guys kind of movie. And let's hope that they can overcome those evil, captors that they have. And there's a lot of grit and there's a lot of toughness. There's a lot of emotion in this movie. I would say 3.5 waffles. I think you're talking about a pretty good movie.
Oscar nominations?
Outside chance. I mean, they're working hard. Angelina Jolie's got the chicken pox. She can't be out there promoting it, but she's going to try to get out there as soon as she can.
All right, and finally, one that I haven't seen a lot of promotion on, but since it stars your future ex-wife, I guess we're going to talk about it. Big Eyes.
That's right. It's Amy Adams in the true story of Margaret Keane, who is a female artist in the 1950s. She leaves a bad marriage. She ends up getting married to Christoph Waltz, who is kind of this real estate agent who wants to be an artist. And the two of them are creating art that, well, nobody really wants until Amy Adams' art starts to take off. The problem is her husband, Christoph Waltz, claims credit for it. And as they become bigger and more famous and richer because of it, she is feeling horrible that, this creation of hers is being credited to somebody else who maybe doesn't appreciate it.
And what do you give it?
I think this is a very solid movie. Believe it or not, directed by Tim Burton. And it has that Tim Burton feel at times when it doesn't need it. It kind of goes off into a little bit of a wacky and a little bit of an eccentric feel when it doesn't need it. But Amy Adams is so amazing, kind of bringing all this emotion, all this pain that she feels, hiding this success and not getting the credit that she always desired. And I think it's her performance that you really want to watch. I'd say 3 waffles out of 4. I think Big Eyes is a pretty decent movie. There's going to be a big push for Amy Adams to get an Oscar nomination. She's right on the outside fringes of it right now, and maybe we'll cross in there in the next month.
All right, and all these, I guess the first 2 come out Christmas Day, correct?
Yeah, Into the Woods and Unbroken come out Christmas Day. Big Eyes is very fluid right now. There's a thought that this movie will get picked up by a lot of theaters that aren't playing The Interview. Also, the same thing for the Mark Wahlberg movie, The Gambler, might be picked up by movies that aren't showing The Interview because they were supposed to get very limited releases to qualify for Oscars during Christmas week and then go nationwide in January, and now everything's in a tizzy.
All right. Thank you, Willie. We will talk to you the first full week of January. Have yourself a very happy holiday.
Well, you too. And that first full week of January, dude, it's Liam Neeson in Taken.
How, is this like Taken 8? Something like that?
Yeah, something like that. And maybe the final Taken, unless it makes a lot of money and they come up with another story.
I've heard that the previous 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, exactly.